5 terrifying camping tales that will keep you awake. Camping is supposed to be a peaceful escape, a break from the hustle and bustle of life. Nestled under starry skies, surrounded by nature, we often feel safe. But as the firelight fades and shadows stretch and loom, the wilderness transforms into a playground for the unknown. Tonight, we delve into 5 terrifying camping tales, stories filled with suspense, fear, and the occasional reminder that some places are better left alone. Buckle up for a haunting adventure. It started as a simple getaway for 2 lifelong friends, John and Eric. Eager for solitude, they pitched their tents deep in the woods, a place untouched, far from trails and noise. The first night, everything felt serene. The crackling fire, the cool night breeze, and the distant call of an owl. But just as they were about to fall asleep, they heard it, a faint drumming sound echoing through the woods. Boom, boom, boom. John dismissed it as animals or maybe the wind, but Eric couldn't shake the unease settling in his stomach. The sound continued for hours, rhythmic and unrelenting, until it suddenly stopped just before dawn. The next night it returned, louder and closer. Eric swore the drumming had a purpose, almost ritualistic. Against John's protests, he insisted they leave, but John persuaded Eric to stick it out one more night. That was a mistake. The third night, the drumming surrounded their camp, pounding like a heartbeat. Then came the shadows, dancing figures just beyond the firelight. When John finally mustered the courage to investigate, Eric vanished. The next morning, John found ritualistic symbols carved into the ground near their site. His friend was never found. A group of hikers stumbled upon the perfect campsite, gear left neatly by the fire pit, food packed away, and tents set up as if ready to welcome their owners back. Confused but exhausted, the group decided to stay. That night, they joked about the strange campsite, pretending it was the start of a horror movie. But as they sat by the fire, they noticed things weren't right. Footsteps echoed around the perimeter of their camp, and soft, indecipherable whispers filled the air. One hiker, Sarah, claimed to see faint glowing eyes among the bushes. The following morning, they found their own belongings moved. Worse, the words "Don't stay" were scratched into the trunk of a tree near their camp. Sarah begged the group to leave immediately, but the others laughed it off as a prank. On the second night, the group woke to find strange handprints staining their tents, a sickly gray smudge that didn't come off. When they finally packed up to flee, they followed the trail, only to find themselves right back where they started. The same unclaimed campsite, as if the forest wouldn't let them leave. Brian was a seasoned solo backpacker. He knew his way through the wilderness and trusted his instincts above all else. Late one afternoon, he stumbled upon an old abandoned cabin. Inside, he found a tattered map that marked an X deep in the forest. Curiosity consumed him. Ignoring every rational thought, Brian followed the poorly marked map. The landmarks were unnerving, trees bent unnaturally, rocks etched with claw-like markings, and a small clearing littered with animal bones. As night fell, Brian began hearing faint laughter behind him. Though he hadn't seen another soul for hours, he convinced himself it was his mind playing tricks. The trail grew increasingly treacherous, but he pressed on. When he finally reached the X, Brian froze. Beneath the marker was a shallow grave filled with bones. Not animal bones, but human remains. As a cold sweat soaked him, Brian heard movement behind him. When he turned, he saw nothing but trees. Was it the wind or something else watching, waiting for him to join the grave? He didn't stick around to find out. 4 college friends decided to camp in the mountains over a long weekend. It was all laughter, stories, and roasted marshmallows, until the second night. Sam, the most adventurous of the group, went off to explore alone but never came back. They searched for hours, calling his name, but the silence was deafening. When morning came, their panic grew as they noticed strange carvings on the trees surrounding their campsite. At first, it just looked like scratches, but as more carvings appeared, they began to see patterns, twisting spirals and claw-like marks. Then they started hearing whispers. One of them swore it was Sam's voice coming from the woods, begging for help. Against their better judgment, they followed the sound, only to end at the edge of a cliff. No one was there. The next morning, as they packed up to leave, they found one final carving near their campsite. Sam's name, etched into the bark along with a date, the day before they had arrived. A group of young campers met an old park ranger while setting up their tents. He had an odd air about him, weathered, quiet, but watchful. Sitting by their campfire that evening, the rangers shared chilling tales of the forest, stories of hikers going missing and unexplained events. One tale in particular stuck with them, a camper who disappeared after ignoring the sounds of a crying child in the woods. "If you hear it," the ranger warned, "don't go looking." The group laughed nervously, but later that night, just as the fire began to die down, they heard it, the faint sound of a child sobbing coming from the trees. They froze, remembering the ranger's story. By morning, the ranger was gone, and their campsite looked untouched, as though no fire had ever been lit. When they reported the incident to the park office, rangers told them no one by the description of the old man had patrolled the area in decades. But as they left the office, they noticed a black and white photo of the ranger on the wall. The photo's caption? Dated 1973. Nature is beautiful, but it's also unpredictable, and sometimes unforgiving. These stories serve as a reminder that the wilderness holds secrets we were never meant to uncover. Next time you're camping, take a moment to listen. Is the forest as silent as it seems, or is something watching? Which of these tales terrified you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more chilling stories. After all, the woods aren't the only place with nightmares lurking in the dark.